Hello everyone, this is Arrow, and welcome back to Sundown MHA Podfic. Today we will be continuing Learning to Adapt to the Fall by Supupdog. Chapter 7, Hawk's Broken Bastion. Nezu has finally made it to the hospital, and as soon as his door opens, he's sprinting. There's a notebook under his arm and a slightly pained expression on his face. As Nezu runs into the hospital lobby, he vaults himself down the corridor to the hero ward. Ears flicking in every direction, searching for a threat, tail lashing out and almost hitting people as he runs past them. He was an idiot to think letting a normal nurse call Midoriya's parents. They really had to mention that their son was affected by a quirk and not just say he's healing from an injury. He gave them specific instructions to use, and they had to go around them. When he finds out who called his parents, Nezu will be questioning them and see why they went against his orders. A hero ward nurse would have done it, no questions asked, but no, the idiocy that his normal staffing had to handle the outcall of Midoriya. He makes a sharp turn around the corner that leads to the room that both Hawks and Midoriya were staying in. A little ways down, he can see guards and some other nurses surrounding the door. It seems like Hawks finally lost control. When Nezu, at long last, makes it to the outer ring of guards, he is greeted by Recovery Girl, a few guards, and Midnight. "Hey, boss, I was called in as a last resort. RG said she would probably be able to stop it, maybe with your help, but you always need a backup plan." Midnight gave him a sharp smirk, and he can clearly see the anger hidden behind it. Any UA staff that finds out Midoriya was taken before they were able to find out what was wrong with him would rightfully be angry. He looks over to Chio, who, for anything, he might have missed in the text he got. It appears when he's too upset, he might have skipped something to get the gist of it. Hawks has had his newly marked fledgling taken from him. The staff said he didn't really fight it that much, but after they left, it seemed he snapped and started to attack anyone that went into the room. He didn't do much damage to the staff, but plenty of them have lacerations all over their arms and legs. As Chio went over the list of everything that had happened while he was gone, Nezu marched over to the room. At the moment, Hawks has stationed himself on top of the bed in the room. He seems to be in a completely defensive position, with all of his feathers puffed up and multiple feathers detaching and floating in the air around him. I don't know much about Hawks personally, so I can't use any personal objects or topics to calm him down at the moment. I would advise getting either his fledgling back as quick as you can, or have Nezu go in there and figure out how to calm him down. The only reason I suggest that you go in there is because you are the smartest person on this planet, so you can figure out how to help him faster, and trying to get another bird of prey to help. I would also like to state that the only bird of prey like Hawks available to come to us would take almost 2 days to come because they don't live in Japan. Everything just seemed to work against him today. As he walked closer to the door, he heard a hissing from Hawks trying to get everyone to leave him alone. Nezu would leave him alone if it would help, but it wouldn't. He would be left in his instincts until someone stopped them because his freshly marked fledgling was taken, but why didn't he try harder to stop it from happening? He'll have to figure that out later. As he got up, besides the door, the nurses and doctors were all telling him what they already did to try and calm him down, with things that resembled Midoriya. Food, water, new bedding, etc. Giving him things that look like the fledgling was a good move, but if they don't have his scent, it's a failed try already. Food and water were a good try, and Nezu will probably try that while he talks to Hawks. Them trying to get a new bedding was the most dumb shit they've done all day. These were the last things that Midoriya used, so of course Hawks wouldn't want them changed out for something new. Really, the whole day seems to be worse than the whole USJ incident right now. If they don't stop Hawks' instincts, then it could last days or weeks before they can calm him down right, and that is even if they get Midoriya back by his side. "I want all the staff to get all the food that Hawks has eaten the time he has been here, and some more. The food will be will be all raw, of course, and most of it already on its way, and the staff would need to bring it up to his room. The food is raw chicken, snake, and some live lizards, frozen mice, and some live birds. That are usually used to feed animals at the zoo, but will be used today for our lovely number 3 hero. Now some staff go and grab those from the normal area. It's usually picked up and someone else grabs some of the raw fish that Midoriya always ate. With the combination of his food and the food of his fledgling mate, it will make him think that Midoriya is coming back. After stating that, the staff ran to go get the food that was able to be dropped off and the fish from the kitchen. The remaining staff stood by and waited for more orders from the educational hero, Nezu, one of the smartest heroes of their time. Nezu cleared his throat as he started to look back at his messages, seeing if he got notified about anything else before speaking again. I need all the staff available on standby just in case I am attacked and need to be pulled back for Midnight to knock out Hawks. Recovery Girl will be right beside the door alongside Midnight. If Midnight can't get me out on the first try, if needed, that is where the backup staff will come in. We can't have the room crowded too much, so stand a few paces back for me. He waved his paw, and just like that, the staff backed off quickly. The hissing from Hawks got a little quieter. Do we have by any chance another predator-based mutant quirk in the building? Nezu looked at the staff, waiting for an answer, and one of them put up their hands and stepped forward. He motioned for her to talk and to tell him just so he could know if he can ask them for help or not. We have an intern today that has a cheetah mutation, if that's of any help. He nodded along to the female nurse who stepped up, but now it's just the outcome. He nodded along to the female nurse who stepped up, but now it's just the outcome that might happen. If Nezu went in like he is now, would Hawk still see him as a threat of power or stand down, not hurting him and just letting him move, if a little restricted? If Nezu went in with something the other predator-based mutant had on them to smell more like a threat, would it just put Hawks on an unneeded edge that would just make him attack Nezu sooner rather than later? He was weighing out his options when someone called out his name. Looking up, Nezu was met with the face of what was on his mind at the moment. I was told you might need me, sir? Nezu blinked a few times as he stared in the face of a cheetah. The intern blinked back in kind. Oh, well, I was thinking if I needed you or not at the moment, but it would help me greatly if you just stay back for now. I want to see how it will go with me there first. I might snag your shirt if I need it, if I think it's necessary. Would that be okay with you? This would also be very good practical practice that many can't say they have under their belt. Adding that little bit was unnecessary, but he could tell the boy would help, but you can never be too careful. The young man nodded his head up and down before swiftly running back to the patiently waiting staff. He sees what he thinks is excitement on all their faces, and that makes sense because this is an amazing learning moment that usually never happens, and it's great for hero health staff to know how to do these types of things. They are sometimes asked to help with the more violent patients at times. If they know how to calm down someone like this for next time, they can boast that they can accomplish that. It's something one should boast about as well, because many can't state that. Nezu turns himself back to the offending door and room that holds the silently hissing number 3 pro hero that is currently stuck in his instincts, but he just doesn't know how far in yet. He looks around the room and he can see how much of a mess it is. Feathers are strewn about all around the room, stuck in the little cracks of every corner, and some slightly floating in the air pointed in his direction. All of the furniture and equipment in the room has been flipped onto their sides and look to be thrown out of a fit of rage, which Nezu is sure Hawks had at one point. Looking to the only thing left standing and somewhat unscathed, Hawks was positioned with his wings slightly wrapped around himself. The bright blood-red crimson feathers puffed up to seem more threatening, even though Nezu could feel the murderous aura from the doorframe. He could clearly see Hawk's pernicious gold eyes locked onto him, and Nezu can feel everything in his brain screaming at him to run from the predator and hope that it doesn't give chase. The wings are obscuring most of Hawks' body, but that's fine. Nezu can guess that he has a hardened feather in his hand by now. Nezu ignores the eye contact and only looks over Hawks' shoulder and takes a light, very light step inside. The hiss got a little louder, but not by much. After he got both his feet on the same spot, the hissing went back down again. Hawks hasn't changed his spot on the bed. No movement was made whatsoever, so he cautiously took another tiny step inside. The hissing this time didn't go up in volume, but it didn't stop either. Nezu just has to be extremely careful. He takes 2 steps forward and thinks that's all he's going to try. He doesn't want to be closer to death more than he needs to be today. He takes in how Hawks is holding himself in a way that would allow him to move in any way he needs to with precise speed. Nezu cleared his throat, then made a low chittering noise. He never usually makes this noise anymore because it used to comfort and express happiness, but he hopes it somehow helps right now. It seems to have caught Hawks' attention as he poked his head out of his feathers more. Nezu looks at where Hawks' chest would be, so his head is a little lower down, and it makes him look more submissive before he begins to talk quietly. Hawks? Hawks, are you there? He waits a little bit but gets no answer, so he decides to just go on a little tangent and hope that helps keep his mind grounded in the ranging animalistic tendencies. Today, as I told you yesterday, I went to the station that had the villain that hit your chick with their quirk. That seemed to get Hawks' attention, so he kept talking. Their villain name is Test Run, and their quirk is called Minute Baby. They gave the detective information about their quirk, and it's cleared up some things for us to know. First, their quirk doesn't cause any type of mutations to occur. Hawks quickly got out of his wings and flung them back. He relaxes after being moved, but we're still puffed up. That's good. It seems talking about Hawks' fledgling's condition is forcing him to think more clearly for his chick's safety. No mutations can occur after the quirk is used, but to put in simple terms, the quirk makes one as healthy as a baby. It doesn't turn back the clock of time, but physically turns one into a baby, then back again, but keeps the health of a healthy, bouncy newborn. This also includes anything someone might have lost in their life at that point. Nezu stopped talking and looks towards Hawks' face that seemed to have more of a shocked look instead of a terrifying anger and murderous rage. He can now clearly see that Hawks' hair is very disheveled, eyes blown wide in worry, red, puffy, and the need for more information. He doesn't have his hero costume on at all. He must have changed out of his clothes that Recovery Girl let him borrow, a white t-shirt that is wrinkled with some red dots. Those red dots are probably from the staff that got too close the last time. He can also see some blood on the bed as well, but not enough to cause concern. What? Nezu snapped his eyes up to Hawks upon hearing the first human word spoken. Ground and settle, Nezu. Just ground and settle him, Nezu. What did you say, Hawks? Get him to talk correctly. Don't let him use broken sentences or words to communicate right now. What did you say? It was a stuttering mess, but at least it was easy to understand. Nezu cleared his throat again and slowly began to explain the situation to Hawks. He is technically a type of parent until our parties involved have a discussion on roles, positions, and went through some court of law. Midoriya Izuku, your newly formed marked fledgling, was affected by a quirk, but that quirk cannot cause mutations, like what has happened with Midoriya. He waits a little to see where Hawks's emotions might go. He will go back into the instances he has, or he will do something more human at the moment. He got his answer after a few quiet, tense minutes passed. Tears began to fall down his face. It started out as a slow trickle, but soon a waterfall of tears rolled down. Rolled fat down the number 3 pro hero's face. Nezu watched as Hawks wrapped his arms around himself, but kept his wings loosely behind him, open for movement if needed, but in a comfortable position. Quite pitiful and painful inhuman sounds slipped past Hawks's mouth, and Nezu can slightly see him shuddering. He noticed then that at some point during the whole exchange, the food he asked for was delivered. He slowly took a step back, his front facing the distressed hero, and grabbed some of the raw chicken and a box of live lizards. You never know how someone might act or want after coming out of their instincts. When he was getting the rundown from the staff of how Hawks was acting, some nurses mentioned under their breath that he didn't eat since around yesterday's supper time. He needs food in him, and right now, things that will make his animal side happy would be best to have. Nezu cautiously held the raw chicken in front of him as he slowly walked forward. Hawks might still be off, so be careful is the best at the moment. While slowly moving forward, Hawks' eyes snapped back onto him with then the food in his paws. Before Nezu could react, Hawks lunged forward to rip the chicken out of his paws. This made him fall onto his rump, but he quickly recovered, ears flicking everywhere at the sound of tearing flesh and meat coming from Hawks on the bed. Nezu looked as the man tore apart the raw chicken he just took from him, his heart racing in his chest from being so close to a predator eating and tearing apart its prey. Tears still clearly fell from his face, but he continued to rip apart the meat like he was a starving man, and all too quickly was he done with it. Gold eyes fly back to him, and Nezu freezes on his spot, the eyes of death on him, looking to eat him. The eyes then flicked to the box in his paws, and Nezu kindly held up the box to Hawks for him to take. This time, Hawks took the box out of his paws a little more gently, but still yanked it out and flung open the package. Nezu watched as Hawks grabbed a handful of lizards in the box and shoved them in his mouth and crunched down on them. With them still being alive, they of course moved around violently, but were again soon finished off. Bones and all just gone in a matter of minutes. Hawks honestly made them seem quite good, but with how quickly he was eating them. Nezu swallowed some of the saliva in his mouth as he handed over some more food for the hungry predator. Nezu might need to eat soon as well. "Is that better, Hawks?" he asked after a few more things were given to Hawks to eat. Now he seemed to be under control of himself better than before. He waited for an answer, but all he got was some more tears and heavy sniffling. He thinks he can hear some mumbling coming from Hawks, but he can't quite hear it quite well. It might just be incomprehensible nonsense for all he knows. Nezu walked closer until he was right beside the bed, and that's when Hawks folded into himself, crying quietly while sniffling out loud. Inhuman wails, but somehow sounded more human than some individuals he knows. Nezu could hear more mumbling, but for now he'll ignore it. "Hawks, you did everything you could for Midoriya. Your chick just went back to his parents a little sooner than I would have wanted." Nezu tried to strain his ears to hear the words barely being spoken above a whisper. "I'm sorry, but can you repeat that?" "My fault." At that, Nezu felt a knife go through his heart. "What do you mean?" Hawks got louder after the question, about closer to a normal speaking voice, but with how quiet it was, Nezu was sure everyone could hear him. "It's my fault. My fledgling was taken from me. I couldn't stop him." The words were heavily slurred, with all the tears and some snot running down his face, but Nezu can clearly understand what Hawks is saying. A newly marked sire is extremely emotional and always very in tune with their instincts. If they aren't on edge and mad, then they are either extremely happy or severely sad and depressed. He should probably try and get the events of what happened through Hawks' eyes before getting the stories from the staff. It'll take the longest and be heavily affected by emotions. Nezu would then be able to have the staff to pick out which things match up with normalcy instead of emotional rambling. What do you mean you couldn't stop them, Hawks? Can you tell me what happened? That just got more flooded tears to rain down the pro's face. This is when Nezu heard someone trying to get his attention. He looked up at the door to see Midnight trying to get his attention. She was motioning him to walk over to her, but he wouldn't. He feels that would just make Hawk see Nezu as abandoning him in a vulnerable state, and that would be bad. He motions for her to just ask the question by the door, and she did, after considering it for a little bit. Would you like me to get Hisashi to come here? He's better at handling emotions than you are. Plus, he was closer to the little green bean. That would put him in Hawks' good graces, right? Nezu thought about it while Hawks just bawled his eyes out on the bed that used to hold his newly marked fledgling. He would need to think of who to send over to Midoriya's so they can do a wellness check. He was affected by a quirk, so they can use that to state that they just want to make sure for certain nothing bad happens. Nezu really hopes he's wrong this time. After Nezu decides that, yes, he is tired of trying to understand the wild emotions of the predator in front of him, he would want Hisashi here so he can just push him in the right direction to avoid instincts and all that. Once he confirmed that, Midnight strutted away to where Aizawa was being held. She would also then start to watch the man, as she might even inform him about what's happening. Nezu hopes that the reckless Aizawa was still in the hospital instead of leaving to check on his student. While waiting for Hisashi to make his way to the room, Hawks eats some more of the raw or frozen food for him. With him being more in control than before, the live birds' pigeons are left alone. Nezu will keep them here just in case Hawks accidentally loses control again. When Hisashi finally made it to the room, most of the staff went back to their other duties. Some stayed behind just in case measure. He walked into the doorway to see Hawks with half a snake hanging from his mouth. Hawks was quietly munching on it and still had tears slowly rolling down his cheeks. Yes, it was bone and all once again, and because Nezu learned that Hawks apparently didn't need to worry about bones, as his body would just work around them, and he said it adds a nice crunch on them. That didn't make Nezu's fur bristle up at all. No siree. Nezu watched on with silent laughter as Hisashi paused at the doorframe, looking at Hawks with slight shock and stunned. He thinks it is slight disgust because Hisashi doesn't like bugs, but he also doesn't like reptiles. Reptiles all that much either, and is probably trying to wrap his head around why Hawks is straight up eating a snake when he would want to stay as far as he could from it. Hey, Hawks, Nezu, I heard you would want me for something? Nezu could distinctly hear fake happiness, but it seemed to fly past the number 3's head as he swiftly shot up and ran to the blonde-haired man. He felt his heart leap out of his throat, but he was able to get control of his quick heart rate after seeing Hawks just hug onto the man. The fact that 2 birds of prey have just flung onto the barn after a traumatizing event, Nezu was starting to think it's part of Hisashi's Latin quirk or something. They took him! Was the only comprehensible words out of the whole bucket of sound vomit that just came out of Hawks' mouth. But Hisashi seemed to understand and was able to make the sobbing hero go back to the bed he was on beforehand. Nezu watched as the man excellently worked Hawks down from his emotional outburst and hugged him until he was able to talk more clearly. He didn't even need to warn him that much. He didn't even need to warn him that much, as it seemed the Hisashi knew what to avoid and what way to direct things to make sure never to overstimulate the other's instincts and wild emotions. It took a little bit, but after what was probably 17 minutes, Hawks was able to tell them what happened. He was still practically draped over the older blonde, but Hisashi didn't seem to mind the contact at all, even though he could literally be torn to shreds at any moment. Hawk sniffed a few times before he started to talk about what happened when Midoriya was taken by his parents back home. Story break. Moving forward, anything that is like this right here will be happening in the past. It is not what Hawks is saying to them. He is giving them a very heavily censored version that is being downed with wild emotions that he can't handle at the moment. Just so you know what the fuck's going on, and let's get back to the regular scheduled pain. Izuku, my little fledgling, his mom came in and asked the question. I asked the question. I expect a simple question to be easy for a hero to answer. Hawk stood there stock still. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He had to stay there until his handler told him to answer because they didn't use his designation name. He can only speak when spoken to, and this was a simple rule to follow. He remembers all the times they asked questions in his direction that they wanted him to answer, but he was only allowed to talk when they talked to him directly by saying his designation. His wings were stiff and stuck tight behind his back. He stood straight and tall, no imperfections. He will be caned if standing even a little imperfectly, even if his feet and legs like it when he bends them a bit, and if he was about to take off. He stood and waited. Hawks knows he is being looked at. He's being judged, dissected, pulled apart piece by piece, looking for anything that could be wrong so they can torture and maim, punish him. He needed to be perfect. Hawks was perfect. The hawk was strong and laid back. The hawk knows when to make a sound. The hawk knows what it's meant to do. The hawk the hawk can hold its breath for exactly 6 minutes and 32 seconds, so there's no need to breathe in the handler's presence. Why is the handler here? It does not remember doing something against code. Orders, rules, commands, regulations. It doesn't matter. All the hawk needs to worry about is being perfect. I couldn't answer it that well because how she acted. It reminded me of someone that would hurt me before. Hawks curled up more into Hisashi as Nezu watched the number 3 hero think of a tormentor from a younger age. He couldn't remember ever seeing an abuse case on the hero. He might want to look into that later, if the commission didn't cover it up, that is. I was scared. It was scared because both of my hatchling's parents were yelling at the staff before. I thought they would take him from me. I was right. The last part was a low, quiet whisper that Nezu was sure if he didn't have advanced hearing, he wouldn't have been able to hear it. Hawks then looked up at Nezu, looking at him with dead eyes. You said he wouldn't be taken from me until his wings were gone. A slight pang went through him as Hawks looked in his eyes, a predator wanting to kill him for lying. Hawks, number 3 pro hero, why are you in my son's room? Hawks' eyes zip up to meet the eye of not his handler. That wasn't his handler. Why was he so... No, maybe they gave him a new one and just didn't tell him yet? They want to see how he acts with any authority figure, so Hawks does what he always does best. I was asked by Principal Nessa to help with the student's newly gained instincts. I have taken up the parental role until the parents can take care of him. He said exactly what he was there for, his current designation and title. Hawks is supposed to stay until he is no longer needed. He will stay until he is no longer needed, and he will not fight back when they take him from his fledgling. He looked at them over their shoulder because they think when he looks into their eyes he's challenging them. He could see anger flowing behind those emotionless dead eyes. What What did the Hawks do wrong this time? It listens to all the rules and makes sure the answer truthfully. It was doing everything right, but maybe the handler has personal rules. They want to see how fast it can learn new rules again. What do you mean by instincts? Izuku has no instincts. He is not an animal. Don't react to the blatantly and poorly hidden insult to mutation-based quirks. The Hawks is not an animal and does not show any animal traits. Hawks? What do you mean by instincts? Hawks blinked once, just so he could have his eyes stop hurting from the dryness. He wishes they would let him use his second eyelids. Midoriya Izuku was hit by a quirk at the USJ. Some lasting effects are still present. The Hawks must give them information they need when asked, but not more than what they want. Only give them what they want, or else face punishment. Hawks, what are the lasting effects that are still present? The Hawks then noticed the man he heard from behind the door, standing behind the woman. It has two handlers this time around. Has it gone back on progress that they said it has aced 5 times in a row? What is the Hawks messed up to warrant the extra handler once again? The UA student has present bird of prey mutations, wings, feathers, double eyelids, like me, mixed feet between human and bird, claws or talons on his hands, bird mansions and diet. The Hawk lists everything that should be relevant, not going too much into detail or too little. His information gathering skills must be just right or else he will be punished. The Hawk can feel the fiery hot anger radiating off both his new handlers. Now did it mess up? Did they want more information this time around? Will the Hawk be locked in a box again for not seeing it soon enough? I didn't know what was wrong with how I was giving them information. My brain was in a panic state, and I answered the questions just like they always want me to. They just felt so angry for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because they weren't informed of what was going on with their child? Hawks was covered in a blanket that his hatchling was using since he got here. Sashi looked very comfortable, but obviously upset at all he was learning. So far, Hawks described how Midoriya's parents acted, and he did not like it. The feeling of something being off about them was coming back stronger than ever. Nezu just wishes this will be concluded soon so he can get enough evidence to rip that child out of their hands for good. Hawks, step away from our child. A jolt was sent through its spin. Parents. These were the nestling's parents, not his new handlers. Why did they trick him like that? Well, they wouldn't know they tricked him, but still, why are they so dead and emotionless? Why is his happy, bouncy new baby bird parents like this? They look at him with poorly hidden hate and disgust, just like his other handlers. They are stiff as boards, like they just got pulled out of a package. New toys that were never used yet, clothes that look spotless. They had no wrinkles, no nicks, no little small stains, heavy-smelling perfume and cologne hanging off of them. They stood tall and without care for how they made Hawks feel. They are seconds away from yelling, punching, hitting, kicking, pulling, dragging, binding, anything to hurt him and his baby bird's lives with them. No. He's supposed to protect his baby bird from these fakes are not his handlers. Hawks won't get in trouble for protecting him. Hawks stood up a little taller, and he stared down at the two of them, his eyes leaving as he didn't do as they asked, standing still, tall and strong. Hawks, move away from my child now. We are checking him out. Actually, we did already. We just needed to grab him and take him to our car, so move. Even though the Hawks knew, it could see and tell that they were not handlers. They can't hurt it or anything it loves or cares about, but they are so close. It hurts to hear them angry. It's terrifying. Hawk slowly backs down and steps back, finally letting the two imposters see his baby. His fledgling, nestling, hatchling, his newly marked one. Stand back, Hawks. He froze in place, a little away from the bed, a glare from the father thrown his way as they stood right beside his marked one's nest. He kept eye contact with the fake man, slowly bent down, getting too close, get away, don't hurt his baby. The deceiver touched his nestling and picked him up from the small temporary nest. That thing put its hands all over him and held him wrong. Those things were holding his fledgling wrong. His wings are trapped and turned in an odd way. They are going to damage his new wing. I said stand back. Hawks once again stopped. No more movement at the order. That was chucked into his ears and landed right into his brain, weighing like stones in the water. Hawks can't move. The hawk must stay and watch as they take his fledgling away, his nestling, marked one. The two walked to the door, and the man walked out first, and the wings spread fast. His nestling was taken out of his sight, and he... Hawks? It stopped and made his wings go limp. It can't make the handlers upset. It must stay in line. It has to listen. Thank you for watching over my son, you disgusting half-breed of a human. Why they let that thing watch my child is beyond me. They should have just clipped it. It heard as it was degraded once again. It's normal. They think it can hear them, but they always forget its hearing is always on high setting. So, no turning it down, even if it begs for the noise to stop, or to be quiet, pleading for a new training regimen to be done as blood flows down the side of the thing's face. Hawks? Oh, gone. They are gone. Hawks, can you hear me? Hawks? Gone. That's when I went and attacked a nurse. I was so used to being told what to do because when I didn't, they would hurt me, so I zoned out until the order was done, but when I came to, they were gone and the only ones remaining must have hurt my chick. Nezu watched as Hisashi started to wipe tears from the number 3's face once again. Hearing how those parents dealt with Hawks was a little worrying. They seemed to have some type of hatred towards Hawks, which could be understandable. They weren't told about their child, but a stranger was. They were kept out of the loop, even though the substitute parent was told. The originals should have still been notified. There are clear reasons why they weren't, but Nezu didn't think that would come down. Nezu didn't think they would come down here to get them themselves. It was also said by Hawks that they were told more than what he wanted them to know. He's going to get that nurse or doctor fired today. He's also going to see if he can find any cameras that caught their weird behavior towards Hawks and see if it's a pattern with any other staff members or patients. Hawks watched as he slightly shivered in Mike's arms. He didn't mean to do this. He was supposed to be the number 3 hero, not a quivering child. Where is his sire? Just because the fledgling, nest, his baby. I want my mama. Oh, shush, it's okay, Hawks. I'll be right beside you as long as you need. I know it must hurt. I mean, I don't understand all that much about instincts, but I get enough that this shouldn't have happened to you. Hawks cried harder at the last thought of his nestling, the last time he saw his little one. He was asleep. He won't know where is when he wakes up. He held on tighter as he thought of his poor newly marked one. My marked one! Hawk shoved his face into the blonde's neck. This was the person his little nestling liked. This was the one that helped his nestling when he was hurt before. Hawks himself could get to him. This was the one that helped his nestling when hurt before Hawks could get to him. Hawks can feel a hand run through his hair as more murmurs of words and reassurances are made, right in his ear. He melts into the hold and lets whoever's holding him deal with his weight. He can't think about what just happened that well. His newly marked one was taken from him, and he can't even do anything. Hawks? Hawks? He murmured in response as more tears slipped past his shut eyes. Do you want to go see my husband with me? Your little one also loved my husband too. He's the one the little listener risked his life for, by flinging himself in front of the quirk. More people his hatchling likes? Family? Family? Does his hatchling have more family? Not like those things that took him away, but like this one? The one he's holding him nicely and fixing his hair? He wants his wings groomed. Maybe if he goes with him, Hawks can ask him to groom his wings. Hawks jerked his head up and down, wanting nothing more than to be surrounded by his hatchling's better family. Okay, let's go. They both stood up, almost fell, but they got their bearings and headed to the new room. Hawks still kept some of his hatchling stuff. Did Hawks tell them how they acted towards him? He mentioned what the woman said under her breath, right? Here are some endnotes memes. Nezu opening with a quick running sequence. Readers. Oh no. Nezu looking at the guards around Hawks' room and said he finally snapped. Reader. No, please. Me. I know for a fact this is gonna hurt. Staff. We did everything we could, but this is usually handled at home. Nezu. You morons. Staff. We're sorry. RG. This is what happened so far. Nezu. My life just wants me to drown, don't it? Midnight. Yo, I'm here. Nezu. Cool, we need some other shit still. Cheetah intern, when he was told the Nezu might need his help with a pension. Run, boy, run. It's a victory. Run, boy, run. The sun will be guiding you. Nezu, 100% not sure if he even needs the guy or not. Nezu trying to walk into the room. Hawks severely on edge and wanting nothing more than to kill everything. Nezu's instinct screaming at him to fucking book it. Midnight and RG at the door like, yeah, you got this. Nezu slowly making progress on Hawks. Hawks, my baby, me child. Nezu, food? Hawks, this is my food now, bitch. Eats bones and all. Nezu, I'm in danger. Hawks crying his eyes out. Nezu, what do I do? What do I do? What do we do now? Hisashi! Hisashi glad to be of help. Someone call for what? Hawks fucking tackling him. Hawks fucking tackling the poor man to the ground in a bear hug. They took my marked one! Ah! Nezu, is this some blatant quirk of yours or some shit? Like, wow. Hawks, aw, poor baby boy. Hawks, literally being able to kill him faster than he can blink. Hisashi, let's comfort small sad one, then get the other small green one back. Aizawa with Midnight. So, Midnight, I'm pretty sure Hisashi has already adopted 2 sad and hurt kids while you were asleep. Aizawa, well, at least we will give them a good home. Midnight, oh, I thought you... Aizawa, now he can't complain about me picking up strays. Midnight, there it is. Hawks, want a hug? Sire. Hisashi, I am here to help. Hawks, good family. Where is original flock? Hisashi, let's go back to Aizawa. Hawks, more nice family. Nezu to the Midoriya parents. I will rain hellfire upon you. Alright everyone, that is chapter 7 of Learning to Adapt to the Fall. I'm really sorry this chapter is a lot more choppy. I don't know what it was. I guess reading for this long is really hard for my voice. I hope you still enjoyed. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.